This is the debriefing video for the 13th of May, 2024. Pretty normal beginning to the meeting. We did have a request by the chief from the fire department about selling a truck. He talked about it with the firefighters and everything. There's a possibility for an exchange with the company that we buy the trucks from, but it's better to enter into a contract to sell it to a different department through a broker. We'll make more money that way, and it makes sense to go to a different department. So we'll make about an additional $10,000 that way. And so the board passed being willing to have the chief enter into that contract. And we had a couple more reports. This was the first time Justin gave the maintenance and grounds report, and that went decently well. He had a nice outline of what happened at the different places. Next, we had a visiting official and candidate update. So Heather Cooley talked about running as supervisor again. William Scott talked about running as supervisor, and Kendra Robinson talked about running as a probate judge. We didn't have any public comments on the first public comments. On our decision items, the first one, the land sale request on Lakewood Road and Russell Road. We went through step one again to make sure we had all of the parcel numbers correct. That ended up passing and moving on to step two. We had a land sale request on East Forest Park that passed to move on to step two. So step two is about establishing a minimum bid. Then we had a land sale proposal on East Lakewood Road, and this was motioned and supported and passed as having a minimum of $35,000. There was a water policy ordinance just about changing the wording of the billing to how they already currently do billing. That ended up passing. M120 Christmas tree. This was approved to go through Jelinek. Last night I signed the quote and got that sent over to them, so we're working on that. The Parks and Rec resolution, just to adjust so that they have a minimum of 4 meetings, maximum 7 meetings, regular and special per year, and that ended up passing. The approval for an exception to add a bench along the markers in the Twin Lakes Cemetery, that was approved. The 3% property tax penalty was discussed around discussion items, and it was determined next month not to move forward with eliminating it completely, because it probably just pushed the project forward by 2 weeks, but to work with postmarks so that when people are mailing it in, it still counts for that time period before we send it on to the county if it's too late, if it's more than 2 weeks late. And then Heather talked on cemetery ordinance. She's been working on adjusting a number of changes there, mostly in updating the verbiage and the wording, but a few substantive changes as well. So, and that's all included in there. It's about half of this packet, actually. And then we had our second public comment, and one person, Green, I just wrote down the last name, and talked about inquiring into street lights just for visibility on the corner of Sweeter and M120. And I messaged consumers about that last night, so we'll hear back. But that can take quite a while, a number of months, if they think it's a good idea to even put one there. So we'll hear back on that. And he also mentioned on the visibility along the road on the northwest corner of Sweeter and Dawson. So I had messaged the road commission about that to look into if more of that should be cleared. Rachel mentioned things about the library Wednesday at 6 p.m. There's a community event. She's hoping a lot of people come and can discuss things and whatnot. And I think a few people that are running for office will be there as well. And she also mentioned they're having information about senior scams on Monday at 4 p.m. So people can learn more about that. Obviously been a big thing. And our final one was Kevin McCabe. I think most people know him. If you don't know him, lucky for you. But basically, right off the thing, he must have got some sort of cheap background check on me, and right off the thing to try to intimidate me, that he knows about my previous addresses and some of my immediate relatives, which I do not appreciate, right? So it's not like he made any threats against my relatives, but obviously it's leaning in that direction as an attempt at intimidation. And it tried to perpetuate a lie that I don't live in the township, which it's a good way that he went about the lie, because he found a legitimate previous address of an apartment that I had in Muskegon, so that I'm still living there. So it's a solid way to go about the lying process. People ask, to what purpose is McCabe doing that type of stuff? It's the same psychology as like the Columbine shooters, which I think is hard for a lot of people to understand, but you can read their diaries and whatnot. They're not trying to benefit themselves in any way. Or Cain and Abel is a great example, right? Cain is probably the best archetype of this. He's not trying to benefit himself. He's just trying to hurt other people. And so that is essentially McCabe's psychology. He's not trying to get an advantage for himself, just trying to hurt other people, right? So the thing with our civilization, right, it's very advanced, very civilized civilization, is that your laws have to protect people, right? They have to protect people. And to protect the good people, you also are going to have the laws protect the bad people. And that's essentially the situation with McCabe. It is that everyone knows he's a bad person, but nothing can really be done about it because of the way that he goes about things. So he goes about them in these indirect methods of intimidation and harassment, but we don't have a good corrective mechanism for that. So the laws essentially protect a bad person. Right, and I think everyone realizes that, knows that. So, and it isn't in that type of case. He's trying to get a reaction out of me, trying to start a rumor, which people are crazy. So, various people will believe, and I have seen that in other politicians where they do legitimately live in a different place and hold office in a different place, which is illegal. So it's a reasonable thing to go after people on, but it's a reasonable thing to go after people on that are doing it. So in that way, it's unreasonable. But you have to think about Cain and Abel, the Columbine shooters. You have to think about that type of psychology coming from McCabe. So he just has a weird stalking thing with me, and he stalks a lot of other people. And if you interact with him a decent amount, he'll stalk you. So an odd guy. Any questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. Direct line at the office, area code 231-332-6700, or email supervisor@daltontownship.org. Otherwise, this is Jeff signing off. Until next time.